Okay, good. So we'll jump into this final module now. So I've left myself a little blank screen here. Just one thing I wanted to just go over. Now, we've been over it a few times. We keep doing it. It's just a slight little bit of confusion on the primary or supporting treatments. So I just wanted to use one example here, and I think I might have sort of done this one before, but I think it's a pretty good, clear one to explain that primary supporting treatment. So this is when, in the safe system assessment, you've analyzed a site and you've done exposure and likelihood and severity for runoff road and head-on and intersection, other pedestrian, cyclists, motorcyclists. You've gone through all that. You've scored. You've then taken the design. You've looked at the design. You've scored it based off, using that existing conditions as your baseline. Produce that. Then you look at all of that, you look at their design and you say, okay, I think they could do some improvements. They could alter things here and there, and you make those recommendations. But you'll notice in the template we've given you, you've got to either put those into a category of primary or supporting. So each treatment has to be sort of put into those categories. We will show you when we jump into the learning management system at the end and finalize. Austroad Safe System Assessment Framework has some assistance in this. It categorizes some treatments for you. But I'll just show this one to talk to you about the principles we're talking about here. So I'm going to go with we've got car parking here. And we've got a hold line here. And we've got a vehicle here. Okay. And we've got vehicles coming through here at 60 kilometers an hour, or maybe slightly more. It's a 60 speed limit. The issue you sort of see there is that we don't have enough sight distance out of the intersection. So the vehicle coming along here doesn't have enough time to react if that vehicle goes out, and the vehicle here isn't able to see and make those appropriate choices. So a solution to this, or a way to lessen this risk and the issue, would be to remove some of the car parks, right? Okay, practical challenges often in doing that. But doing that is a supporting treatment. Not a primary treatment, it's a supporting treatment. Why? I mean, we've removed the issue we were concerned about. The reason is we're not focusing on the issue as such, we focus on the crash, right? And the reason for this is the sort of crash we were concerned about was the vehicle coming out and the vehicle striking through there, right? By removing these car parks, we've lessened the chance of that, haven't we? But we still have absolutely the ability for this car to make a bad decision, to be distracted by something, to go. It can still very much happen. It's far less likely to happen. But this crash here involves the same energy, the same angle, the same speed, basically, right? The possibility is certainly still there. So by doing this, removing these, we only influence the likelihood of crash and we don't eliminate the chance of that crash. So the primary treatments on something like this have to influence either the speed, the angle of the crash that we're talking about there. So that's where we get into things like a roundabout. So a roundabout is going to reduce the speed of this vehicle and improve the angle of the crash, and that is a primary treatment. Some people would often want to go to saying, okay, well, signalizing this would then be a primary treatment, but it's not. It's a supporting treatment as well. Why? We have that, and it's too reliant on that driver not making mistakes around missing the red, overshooting it. You know, it's only 1 in a million that'll miss it, but that, you know, speed and angle when that happens is just too great. So signalizing and maybe putting a raised platform. Now we're into a primary treatment because we've got the speeds down as we go through and have that crash. Some other primary treatments. Closing that intersection. So it's a primary treatment at this location. You'd want to think about like where people go to get out now. So that would be one. Grade separation or those sorts of things would also be primary treatments. So you can see how it's about the crash that I'm really thinking about. And you know, a roundabout, for example, is going to be a primary treatment for that crash. It may not be a primary treatment for pedestrians or cyclists. So you're almost, you know, putting it into different categories as such. So hopefully that helps you a little bit in getting your head around this primary supporting stuff. I'm happy to take questions on that for people to get clarity. And okay, no questions seem to have come in on that at this stage, but as I say, happy to talk to you about those. The one thing, yes. So yes, okay. Hang on a second here. I've got 2 questions have come in. What about a speed zone reduction? Okay, great question, and prize for starting the ball rolling on actually asking some questions and getting that clarity. So in our example there, as we had it, so that was a 60, yeah, making that a 50 or something, that would be a supporting treatment because we are still like, that's going to improve road safety, but we're still like reliant on people, you know, following that and not making mistakes. Like there's so much ability to still go fast through there, faster through. So generally speed limit reductions are considered supporting treatments. They're very good road safety. Good road safety treatment will improve road safety, but we're not going to you know, virtually eliminate death and serious injury at that intersection with crashes by just putting up a sign and telling them to, you know, reduce their speed, and fingers crossed they actually do that. The other thing I should mention, and I wanted to mention, is in a safe system assessment, you don't actually need to recommend any primary treatments. Like you would most of the time, but there might be one specific issue that you don't have a primary treatment for that you think is feasible, that can happen. And that's okay, right? Remember, it's not about whether it's like so primary doesn't mean this is my number one treatment. Primary means it's come out of the primary treatment bucket. And I'm going to even draw that with a little thing just to, because it's so important. Here's like a big bucket of primary treatments, and here's a big bucket of supporting treatments, right? Now, you know, we can dig into the primary bucket, take a few of those out as ideas. We can dig into the supporting bucket. We can take a few of those out as ideas, or we may only pull stuff out of the supporting bucket because that's all we think that actually could happen at that intersection under the context and everything we've looked at. So don't think you have to have a primary. Of course, we would like to be recommending primary if we possibly can. So that was one, the speed limit reduction. Would the roundabout be a primary treatment? Yeah, that's what, yep, absolutely. That's what I was saying for that one. The primary would be for that crash type, for that intersection. So when we're thinking about the concern of that of the crash involving the vehicle coming out, the vehicle being struck there, the roundabout is the primary treatment, because it will virtually eliminate side impact, death and serious injury for passenger vehicle crashes. So it's a primary treatment. Yep. So well done there. Side intersection T warning sign. Okay. So if we were to put up the, warning sign here, well, there'd be a potential warning sign on this leg that would be like that. So for people coming this way, and on this one, we might have a warning sign somewhere down here that, has the T there. Now, I'll ask the group, what do you think that would be, primary or supporting? See if anybody. Okay, good. So supporting, good. So first one in there, Loretta Sonovi, that surprise, that's correct. That is not like it. To be honest, it's not going to do much at all. Actually, I'll give you a little tip. This one will do far, far more than this one, because this one, like this driver coming up here, they're not going to adjust their speed. They're hardly going to be even more alert. This one, because of it's obvious my road is going to end. You may be alerting them to the fact that their road is going to end. It's far more effective, but it's still a supporting treatment, because as you're all nicely looking at there, how have we changed that crash? Have we changed the speed of it? No. Have we changed the angle of it? No. Have we, separated it so it can't happen? No. It's going to just be a supporting treatment. So well done. Good. Thank you for those questions, and a good bit of interaction there. Okay, let's keep going. Now, this very short module, as I mentioned, happy to jump back and talk about anything really in this session associated with safe system assessments or general road safety. I'm happy to talk about. But we really want to just make sure everybody understands the benefits of safe system assessments. And I'm going to arm you with a bit of information on that for you to be able to go and talk to people about assisting them and doing safe system assessments for them as part of your projects or as a service you can offer, so you can convince people of the value of safe system assessments. I'm going to talk you through the process of a safe system assessment within an infrastructure project, which I think is starting to get your head around, but I'll sort of spell that out in steps. And one thing that comes up a lot is people say, oh, well, I don't need to do a safe system assessment. We're getting a road safety audit done. And I just want to talk a little bit about the differences between those two and where you can get value out of each of them. And then I might also talk about some other assessment types if people are interested. Last chance to keep track of your wallies, of course. Now, I think I showed this in module 1, but I just come back to it, that each jurisdiction starting to make formalized commitments to using safe system assessments as part of their development of public road and street infrastructure. So Queensland TMR's policy is in there, and we're seeing some local governments putting it into their local road safety strategies and plans and procedures. New South Wales' most recent road safety action plan has that firm commitment to utilising safe system assessments in all Transport for New South Wales projects. And again, actually some of their programs, some of the Transport for New South Wales funding programs under the road safety program require safe system assessments as part of the application process, or that gives you a far better chance of being funded. So that's a good one. New Zealand certainly got it very heavily integrated into their strategies and plans and what they're doing. Victoria has a policy, anything above $5 million has to have full safe system assessments. 2 to 5. It's generally happens under 2 million. There'd be something expected. It may not be a full-blown safe system assessment. And that's capital infrastructure cost, like total estimated cost, TEC. South Australia are exactly the same as Victoria. They have exactly the same policy, just with a different front cover on it, and a global replace of Victoria with South Australia, pretty much. So they're exactly the same. Western Australia doing something completely different, doing their own thing. A few people using safe system assessments, but not many. And then Northern Territory, Tasmania, and ACT, sort of bits and pieces here. Tasmania is probably doing the most safe system assessing of any of those jurisdictions, but it's certainly appearing in Northern Territory contract specifications and ACT, using safe system assessments on things like light rail and a few other projects that are popping up. So certainly got a lot of traction now, and you are, in a relatively small cohort of people in Australia that have the, the skills. And it's about knowing the process, being able to logically look at stuff, provide that information, score some logical recommendations, and help people through. So let me run through this chart, and then I'll take questions, and I'll see something's popped up, but I'll talk through this, and then Loretta can give me the questions that have come in. This is a really fascinating little graph, and it's one of the outputs of an independent evaluation of 35 safe system assessments on huge projects, like big projects. We're talking major town bypasses, major road town bypasses, major motorway upgrades, like big, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollar projects, if not billion-dollar projects. And what they did in evaluating this, and this was Blair Turner, who led this evaluation, and it was on a variety of consultants' safe system assessments. What they did is they used a crash prediction model, and there's a number of crash prediction models that you could use, but essentially what it does is it takes lots of variables and information about a site, length of road or an intersection, or length of road with many intersections, looks at the volume, the growth, and then all of these factors that they know influence risk. So the speed, the presence of barrier systems, the speed through intersections, the intersection controls, the land use, the amount of pedestrian activity, all of these, things, and it plugs in, and then it sort of spits out a prediction on how many deaths and serious injuries will happen over a period of time, accounting for growth and those sort of things. So what we've got here then is fatal serious injury crashes on the y-axis, and they've got these things. So no project. So what's that saying is, in these areas, there were these proposals for these massive infrastructure upgrades for roads. And if they were to not do any of that, this is how many deaths and serious injuries would occur over those lengths of roads. And some of these are significant lengths of roads. So 7,900 serious injuries, 344 fatalities over 20 years throughout these areas. Now, each one of these had a design for an upgrade, and the design, it's called the original design, that was put through the prediction model and spat out that around 6,700 serious injuries would occur in these areas and 286 fatalities if they built it exactly as those original designs proposed. Now, those original designs were mostly at sort of a reference design level. So they had some information. They certainly weren't detailed designs. There was still, working out that they had room to move, but it was a general, this is kind of what we want to do. So at this point, they got safe system assessments done. And the safe system assessment went through the process just as you are going through with your very small design, a little thing. These were much, much bigger. But those safe system assessments then made recommendations. And here, the evaluation here looked at those recommendations, took the biggest ticket items, or sometimes they took all the recommendations, said, okay, they're going to do all of those ideas in these projects. And you can see that brought the numbers down to 3,890 serious injuries, 167 fatalities in these areas. Now, they went back and they said, okay, well, what is being built or what has been built? And they looked at it and they found that it was what actually got through, approved, finalized, 5,298 serious injuries, 227 fatalities in the areas that they've upgraded and built. Okay, so let me unpack this and how I read this and what it tells me, what the story it tells me. First of all, that difference says we can't say that, new roads, upgrades, building, town bypasses and things doesn't improve safety. It improves safety. Like, we're going to get less death and serious injury. The difference between this and this says that's how much more we could improve things with what we know and what, if we're willing to sort of move these things forward. So we can get a huge benefit off the investments that we're making. These are the stock standard run-of-the-mill big design houses, just spitting out designs based on the standards, just churn them out. But that's the way we've always done it. There it is. So we can get a huge amount more. Okay, this is a fascinating little difference, but that is a whole lot of things going on there. That's a designer receiving or a project manager receiving the safe system assessment saying, yeah, we can't do that. I don't think that'll be politically acceptable. There's too much cost associated with that. We can't, that doesn't fit with our traffic model, all sorts of reasons. Some of them are just cultural, like industry culture of, no, we don't, that's not the way we do it, whatever those things are, right? That difference there is the advantage or the benefit we get from doing safe system assessments. That is literally, that's what they were going to build. After we've gone through this process, that's now what they're going to build, right? They just needed somebody to say, why don't you do this? 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 And they said, well, we can't do these three, but we can do those two. And there we get a saving in lots of lives and lots of serious injuries. So that's really, shows the benefit. Now, over time, we hope to lessen this gap by, improving. Well, actually, we hope to bring this down here. So there's less difference. So our designers are producing the best alignment with safe system principles from the get-go. But one other thing that it surprised me a bit in reading this evaluation report was this. The reason for that is we talk about a safe system. We say, we aspire for zero death and serious injury. Nobody should be hurt on the roads. The safe system is our way to get there. And we get this safe system assessment done and we give it to them. And even if they did absolutely everything we said as safe system assessors, we're still left with this big residual of death and serious injury. What's going on there? And to a degree, that shows that this evaluation that was done is quite realistic, because those crashes are things that our current way of operating and what we can offer just doesn't have answers for. And a lot of that at the moment are things like motorcyclists. So these 100 kilometer per hour, 110 kilometer per hour town bypasses where we've, convince them to put continuous barrier systems with motorcycle underrun protection and great. Motorcyclists are still, going to crash, and the energy, we can't manage that energy at that speed. So motorcyclists are one. These rare abnormalities of people, pedestrians walking on these high-speed rural roads and being struck. We've got some residual of intentional reckless behavior sitting in there that we can't, it's not being addressed by what recommendations we're making in these models. So it's interesting, and it shows that we need a whole of system approach to it. Yeah, basically these are infrastructure changes in here. Even though the safe system assessment has the ability to do other things, they're predominantly influenced by infrastructure changes. We're going to need a lot more to happen to really get us down to those close to zero. But the benefit of a safe system assessment, I mean, that's pretty amazing that much safety is sitting there on the table, absolutely easily achieved, and they're taking it up, but not if we just let them run without a safe system assessment. These projects, I think they've sort of 35 projects, but I think 31 or 32 of them had been subject to a road safety audit, and they'd incorporated those changes. So this is above and beyond what they're getting out of those road safety audits. So it's pretty interesting. I don't know. I find it fascinating, really interesting to show what benefit you can get from just this process. Loretta, where are we here?
We just had a really good comment from Penelope, which I'm sure a lot of other people in the group may sort of feel the same with their cohorts. But yeah, basically, Penelope heard that it may be another case of strategy words versus commitment to implementation. DIT in SA seems to be unsupportive of RSPs at intersections or pedestrian cycling crossings on arterials, which are usually 60 kilometres per hour. I guess as engineers, planners, we just keep documenting and pushing.
Yeah, it's really frustrating and hard. And I suppose we're trying to get out there to as many of those sort of traditional holders of decision-making in state road authorities, especially. I mean, that it is such a change in mindset. The industry has for 50 years been all about pumping cars through as fast as possible on these big roads, and like we're now in here saying, putting forward things to increase walking and cycling, and saying that these areas are going through major areas of place, and we got to change our mindset of that. But there's such a, it's like it's like that old trying to get a oil tanker to move, like a big ship to move, and it slowly moves along because there's so much sitting there behind it. But we are getting movement on it. We are getting traction. Using those case studies and examples of other states, certainly we're trying to put out a lot in our safe system snippets online and things, and just showing lots of big raised intersections. And the world doesn't collapse if you slow people through these big arterials where there are people walking and cycling, and or even just other vehicles through the intersection. And yeah, but it's frustrating, it's challenging. When we as you say there, we just need to keep documenting, pushing, challenging, and trying to we're trying to disrupt an industry really that's just accepted death and serious injury as part of the cost of moving people around roads and streets. So we're trying to challenge that, and it's hard. So next question was, does SSA delve into maintenance regime or roads in poor condition in high speeds? So that would possibly be one of your factors that would increase the likelihood of crash. If you looked at the road, you're looking at a section of road, and it's got very poor maintenance, potholes or flushing or running or whatever is going on, and you go, well, that's actually going to potentially increase the chance somebody leaves the road or leaves their lane and has a head-on crash. You would factor that into the scoring of your likelihood. There's a lot of interesting work done around road condition and actual road safety outcomes, and it's nowhere near as influential as it is perceived. But I don't think that means that we, sort of ignore it or anything like that. The thing is that it's a very consistent and immediate impact on people driving. They get bounce around, they get a shock, they get scared. For it actually flowing through to a death or serious injury, it's not a huge increase in risk. There is increase in risk, absolutely, with maintenance and deterioration, and it gets to a point where it goes, it becomes a bit more of an influence. But yeah, it can get overinflated as the reason for road trauma. Like, you'll see that pop up in the papers and on the the radio and the TV and these social media and things like that, which is to say, we've seen an increase in the number of deaths and serious injuries in last year, and there's been a decrease in maintenance funding, and they're trying to make that direct link. And while there might be some influence, a little bit of influence of that, we very much know that you can have perfect maintenance, perfect road surface conditions, and we see a lot of death and serious injury still happening. So there's far more involved in it than just that. But as you say there, how do we factor and account for that in our safe system assessment? It would be in the likelihood of run off road and head on. And motorcyclists, they're more influenced by surface conditions than any other vehicle. So you would maybe jump their likelihood score up a little bit more if there's surface issues than you would for others. But that's the way you need to think about it. Now, in the qualitative questions, they are just Max took you through those. I think they talk about post-crash care and can we access people and do people their distractions, big giant pineapples or things like that. You have the ability, if you want to add other notes and things in there, you can do that at that stage within a safe system assessment. And if you look at something and you say, well, they're going to build this, but like there isn't how they're going to maintain it, I have no idea. Like it just doesn't, it's going to be super hard. You could put notes around that in there. Now that kind of drifts into safety and design as a process, but it is able to be put into a safe system assessment in a qualitative sense from the ability to maintain something or the maintenance burden it will put. You can put some notes in around that. Great questions. Thank you. Let's, there's more coming in. Good, this is what we want to see. Statistics show we see more and more motorcycle crashes and they're increasing every year. Do we have any special policies for the motorcycle riders? What a great point. And certainly the work I've been doing with colleagues at an Austroads level around it's called the project we've been doing is called Charting a Path to the Elimination of Death and Serious Injury on Roads. And we've been doing some of this modeling of, where will we get to by 2050? And where we'll get to is that motorcyclists will be our dominant source of death and serious injury and under our current sort of predictive models. Pedestrian cyclists will be higher. Passenger vehicle occupants, excuse me, passenger vehicle occupants are going to do really well by 2050. You're very well protected in the vehicle, and the vehicle is very good at protecting the occupants. it's more vulnerable road users who are going to be in a lot of trouble. What can we do about that? Oh, it's hard. So we are doing work around the infrastructure for motorcyclists. So the Making Roads Motorcycle Friendly series, which you may be aware of, and we are trying to get some of those things put in place in the infrastructure. That will help a bit. There is some looking at what vehicle regulations we can have around motorcycles. So the introduction of ABS, electronic stability control, which still blows my mind that they have been able to come up with a way to do electronic stability control on a two-wheeled motorcycle. Incredible. Like, yeah, so it's a Bosch invention, and it basically, you're on a lean and you go into a corner too fast and it will adjust to make sure the bike doesn't fall over. It's pretty amazing. Electronic stability control, e-call. So there's a number of things that sort of are starting to be possibilities. You've got to try and change the fleet. So some jurisdictions have specific motorcycle safety strategies. The Victorian government had one. It doesn't have a current one. Yeah, but it's a real area, I think, where we need innovation. We need some courageous leadership and political leadership to call out some issues and address them. Motorcycle groups are very powerful lobby groups, and it's challenging. Like, I've worked with those groups a long time. I'm a licensed rider. I don't ride. I'm not an active rider. I'm a licensed rider. I have done it to try to learn more about that road user group. But in some work we've been doing with the industry, we're just huge resistance to even like what we see as no-brainer ideas, like, okay, we will speed limit all motorcycles on the public road to 140. I mean, I like, we didn't even, you're not even going for just down to 120, like 140. So like you can't even sort of argue, well, if they were overtaking a truck and something appeared, they had to quickly accelerate out. Like, so the resistance to something like that as an impingement on freedom, and so it's really, really challenging, really hard. I don't unfortunately have answers, but I hope you will come up with some answers on what we can do and get those initiatives and trials going through your organization. Yeah, where do natural conditions like rainfall and fog sit in a safe system assessment? Again, those sorts of things, you would try to imagine the area in different conditions, in rain, in fog, in super hot days, during peak hour, during the middle of the night. You won't be able to get out there and monitor and look at it in all these conditions, but you kind of imagine it in those, and then you sort of factor a little bit of that into your likelihood of crashes most often. And if you talk to your client or people in the area and they tell you, yeah, this is an area we get lots of fog, you can factor that in, say, lots of fog increases the likelihood of these different crash types at some points in the year, and you might adjust it up or down a little bit. And it might spark an idea of a recommendation of things like vehicle activated signs is a really good one for fog, where you're providing those pre-warnings of something coming up. So, there's an intersection coming up, these pre-warning sign, but it's active, it flashes, it really appears when a vehicle's coming. So those sorts of things. Variable speed limits have been used for areas of fog and black ice, and sort of weather monitoring and weather adjusted. New South Wales also has some rain sensors and speed limit changes based on rain conditions. So there's lots of opportunity for that if there's something that's popped out and became a real area of concern for that specific site you're looking at. Yeah, so a really great point around motorcycles as a discrete road user group. And this is one thing I think hit the nail on the head with this question, because I don't know how long ago this was, 20 years, 15, 18 years ago, when Victoria was first doing movement and place and smart roads, for those who remember it in Victoria. And it was about putting out corridors and assigning road user groups for those corridors. Or is it a public transport route? Is it a vehicle route? Is it a vehicle priority route? Is it a pedestrian priority area? Is it this? And then you can change it by time of day and do all these other bits and pieces. But looked at it, and as I say, there was public transport route, primary traffic route, which was cars and freight, strategic cycling corridors, pedestrian priority areas, public transport routes, if I didn't say that already. So that would, and it could be tram route, bus route, and I put my hand up and I'm like, well, what about motorcycle routes? Like, that's a legitimate road user. It's different to all of these. And they said, we just, because they operate like a car in the sense of where they go and how and their speeds and the like, we've lumped them in with primary traffic route. And I'm like, I'm not sure it's quite comfortable, but I couldn't give that other answer. But I do like the idea of saying, okay, no, we are going to set out some roads that are motorcycle priority routes. And it's not that they would only be for motorcycles, or maybe they would, but we would alter the operations, the infrastructure, to make it as safe as possible for motorcycles. It might be dedicated motorcycle lanes, but certainly there'd be alterations and further infrastructure changes and the like. And either try to limit the motorcycle use on those other routes or ban it, or just make it so motorcyclists have to go a lot slower on the other routes. That might be a really good way to start to lever more safety for motorcyclists. Again, the huge challenge on that. I mean, even for bicycles, for example, where I've always run a similar theory, is like, we need really great bicycle facilities, strategic cycling corridors, and we need to invest in those and build them properly. But we really can't have bicycles on every public road, because if you've got a major traffic corridor and and it's high speed and it's been designated as that, what we need is a parallel great strategic cycling corridor. But the idea to build that and also have the freedom for cyclists to go on this, it just doesn't compute for me. You can't do everything with every bit of road. So we need to start to think about, separating those out. Anyway, that's sort of a strategic transport planning dilemma. I tell you what, with motorcyclists though, sorry, I'm going to, if motorcyclists did not currently exist and somebody came with the idea of a motorcyclist to government and said, this is a vehicle that we would like to use on the public road network everywhere, there is no possible way they would let that out there. I mean, the backlash currently for e-scooters and e-bikes that are, generally very low speed, very low power, quite controlled. The fear and the pushback on those has been so great. And I'm always sitting there going, what the hell are we pushing back on that for when we've got this, the motorcycle risk sitting out there? But anyway, that's another. I was thinking about how I write that up as a say system snippet for LinkedIn, and it'll cause all sorts of anger from segments of the motorcycle community, but sometimes we just need to actually say it as it is, and look at ways to strategize to address this rather than pretend everything's rosy. Great questions, though. Thank you. Letting me get up on my soapbox. Feel free to raise your hand and talk at any point if you want. I'll give you a coffee break shortly before we do a final little wrap-up exercise. Some benefits of safe system assessments. I've dot pointed these. You can put in your, they're in the PDFs, and you can use these again if you're talking to somebody or you're sending an email to somebody. Great way of determining how well a project aligns with safe system principles. And like, while that sounds like a bit of a sort of throwaway line, it has been in the past so subjective and so opinion based on that. There's arguments happening across councils and state government departments all the time. Oh, we're not doing that. It's not safe system, and oh, we are. It is safe system. Oh, this is and like, so we needed some methodology. So it's actually really good from that perspective. Great way to compare project design options when you've got that, and can quantify some things as well, inject it into multi-criteria assessments. Good information on how we can improve these designs to get us closer to our objectives of eliminating death and serious injury, noting that even with our best at the moment, we're not going to eliminate death and serious injury, but it's a significant step, and it gets us moving in the right direction. Great method to get us to take the safe system from this big picture, theoretical blue sky principles and the like, to actually decisions on the ground in projects, and something we can put out there and say, no, this high speed arterial intersection is not well aligned with safe system principles, and it's got a bit of meat to it, it's got some numbers, it's got graphs and exciting things like that. Sound basis for future planning and design of road infrastructure. Okay, we go through. Actually, maybe I'll pause there, Loretta, just because I know this is a shorter session. It might be good to have our little grab a coffee break. My coffee has gone a little cold, so I'm going to go heat it up. And what about we come back in 5 minutes and I finish off with a bit of process guidance, a little bit of a final summary, show you how to finish the course. Loretta will show you how to finish the course, get your certificate, and we'll go from there. So see you in 5 minutes. Okay. I think we can get back into it. I was just going to talk about process guidance now. What I mean by that is, how do we engage a safe system assessor, assessment team? Where in the process does that happen? How does that all work? So the first thing I want to say is that the earlier in a project the safe system assessment can happen, the better. Well, I say that. Maybe you want a bit of an idea of what you want to do or what they're trying to achieve, but you certainly don't want it locked in terms of things like intersection form or alignment, cross-section, because those are really big, important safe system elements. And if those decisions have been made, you really lose the ability to get some serious alignment with safe system principles. You end up just tweaking with a lot of supporting things. Road safety audits tend to just provide, to a degree, a bit of a better process for the very detailed end. When you get a full detailed design set, a road safety audit is probably what you should be doing, because you will be poring over geometric design details, thinking about how the drainage will work and whether there will be a little bit of extra water in areas, and whether that will slightly increase some chance of aquaplaning, and have they got the barrier flare rate right? And what's the batter stability for the barriers post, and like really specific detailed design nuances. And really, like, a safe system assessment is saying you need a barrier system here. The audit is going into those very minute details about that barrier system, right? Because the safe system assessment sort of can do that, but it's not the best setup for that. So it's really that big picture. Let's get good projects going, and then we'll get into the details, and we'll have some real technical expertise honing in on those in road safety audits and design reviews and those sorts of things. I hope that makes sense. I think road safety audits play a really important role still in road safety assurance in projects, but I just think it starts at like a pretty, you know what you're building, you know what it is, and the design comes through. Okay, well, let's make sure we got every little tiny nuanced detail of that design as safe as we possibly can. And like this table, this is changing. We're changing road safety auditing to be a little more safe system focused, safe system aligned, but a lot of this still holds true, especially in some jurisdictions. But the difference between a road safety audit and a safe system assessment, they're both really good at looking at the likelihood of crashes. Probably audits go into more detail on the likelihood of crashes, just in terms of you really get into minute detail. The severity of crashes, you cannot get away in a safe system assessment without analysing in detail the severity of crashes. Audits, while we would like them and we try to make every auditor really think about that, I still see a lot of road safety audits out there coming in, and they've got like a large high-speed signalized intersection design. They go through lots and lots and lots of stuff that influences the likelihood of crash, and they're great. They're so good at the detail of that. They talk about, approach sight distance to the signals, mast arms, lighting, surface conditions, all of this, wonderful sort of detailed stuff. And at no point have they put their mind to when somebody runs the red light, because it's all about stopping them running the red light. That is super important, right? We want to do everything we can, but you have to put yourself in that mindset of, now they're running the red light. What happens? How bad is this? And what can we do about it? And that's where the safe system assessment just locks you into really that thinking. Road safety audit should do that. Now, exposure as a distinct element is not thought about in a road safety audit. It is just included in the likelihood. So now that's fine, right? It's kind of accounted for and factored for in a road safety audit. But when you extract it as its distinct element, it actually can, in some circumstances, help you think about different ways to address risk and address these issues. So can be a bit of an advantage for that. They're both trying to provide recommendations to improve road safety outcomes, unless you're in New South Wales, where you do not provide recommendations in a road safety audit. That is not part of what New South Wales does. They say a road safety audit is simply to identify issues, leave it to the designer and the project manager to work out how to address these issues. Every other jurisdiction says, here are some issues, here are some ideas on how you could lessen that risk. But for safe system assessments in New South Wales, they do provide those recommendations. So they all consider all road users, and they're very clear on that. That's great. The focus of a safe system assessment is really on that death and serious injury, whereas a road safety audit will go more into the other injury, crashes, minor property damage, risk, and these sorts of things in a bit more detail. Now, the wider elements of the safe system, the vehicles, the people, the post-crash care, the possibility of thinking about maintenance impacts and wider things, they're not really done in road safety audits a lot. I mean, I think good road safety auditors are quite good at human factors thinking and people and how's this going to influence that. But, some of those other vehicle things and the like, not really thought about. Making fundamental changes to the project. That's what we want safe system assessments to do if it's needed. Really question the whole intersection form, the whole alignment, the whole cross section, the speeds, the fact that it's an on-road bike lane. Why is it not a separated bike lane, like bike facility? Like these sorts of big questions. Whereas road safety auditors aren't. I mean, they can do that, but it's clear in the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, which is road safety auditor, to say a road safety auditor's role is not to redesign the project and question the whole project and the big fundamentals. It's to make sure it's done in the safest possible manner. That makes sense. So slight difference there. And this has always been a big one for me. And I talked about this in the first module. I feel that road safety audit as a process is very valuable to ensure that we, get the safest possible thing once you've decided what's happening, but it can, at early stages, stifle innovation because it is simply a risk assessment tool to flag risks associated with something. That's its nature. That's what, in used right, that's very helpful. But if you're using it to try to consider, do we not do this project or idea, it's just going to tell you why you shouldn't do it, like with risk. It is not there to tell you how good a project is. But a safe system assessment will help with that because you get that score, you get a quantitative outcome of improvement. So safe system assessments are far more scalable as well. Like you can do a safe system assessment of a mine site, a remote community, a township, it really it's quite scalable if you want it to be. The process, and I'll go through this quickly. Somebody determines whether a safe system assessment is needed and then whether it's a full or a rapid. I'll explain the difference between those. There's not a huge difference between them, but one's just a little bit quicker, a little bit more rapid. Then the team selected to do that, and there's some sort of exchange of information, commencement meeting, sit around, understand the scope of the project, the context, all of that. And then the team goes out, looks at the site, looks at the existing conditions, looks at any designs they've been given, does the safe system assessment matrix. They get into thinking about other elements of the safe system, so those wider questions. Then they come up with ideas to improve this project. And that's really important that, we're giving them those ideas. They consider all of those. So we write it up into a report. And there's some standard reports, and you've got a template now and you're using that. And so use that again, rebrand it, use it as you want, but make sure we're sort of consistent with how we report these. Then it's handed over and the client sort of decides which they can do, which they can't do, what changes they will make, they won't make. And they sometimes give that back to the safe system assessment team. Sometimes they don't, and they just sort of have that on their own records. And then they actually incorporate any changes into their design. They make those changes. So that is the process. Some of you, if you are road safety auditors or you've got some experience with that, will look at that and go, looks kind of like the road safety audit process. And that was intentional in the sense that it's very much the same process. Victorian government and South Australian government sort of are in a position where they're saying if you do a safe system assessment at an early stage in a project, it actually negates the need for the road safety audit at that same stage, early stage only. So because it's the same process, it's the same sort of thing, you're looking at the same And if it's an early stage, you're not into those minute details. Sometimes at this stage, so you've done your audit, you've done your safe system assessment, you've handed it all over. They look at it and they go, okay, we're going to do these 3 things you said, but we're not going to do these other 5. Can you please rescore it with those 3? So then you sort of go back and you do another audit and another matrix. And I actually kind of like this because an end result you kind of get is, if I draw this as a bit of a graph, you can sometimes have original design, and this is, the safe system assessment score, original design, and then this safe system. Sorry, I had a mental blank then. The existing conditions. That's what I wanted to say. Existing conditions. They say it was scored at that. We gave them a design, and they scored it that. Then they made these recommendations, and we've taken those and we've come back and we've got it down now to here. Now that's just a lovely story to put up to say that's how it is at the moment. That was our crack at it. And we got some external help, and we've managed to bring it down to here. And, it shows you're doing everything you can to try and how do we get the best alignment with safe system principles? So that's pretty nifty. So there's a few governments that have a few things. I'll come back to that rapid versus full safe system assessment. It's a very short thing. Few governments, so Victorian government has a bit of information out there, has a register of safe system assessors. It has literally in the last week gone offline. So we'll make sure we inform you all when it does come back online. It'll be under the DTP website, and that's all. Everything's gone everywhere. But it used to be here, and essentially the Victorian government process is that you complete this course, which is noted. So you basically you say, oh, I'm interested in becoming a safe system assessor, and they say, well, go do this course. And so you're almost completed this. Then you go and you do a safe system assessment. Like, okay, you're doing the mock one as part of the course, but you need to go and do a real one with a real client and actually go through the process. And then you hand that in, they review it. And then if they, if you've proven your competency by a successful certificate of successful completion, safe system assessment that they've deemed, shows that you know this process, you know the safe system, then you go on to their list, their register, which basically was just a PDF list. And I'm still trying to find it. For our South Australian friends or others from other jurisdictions that want to get onto the South Australian register, it's a bit easier because they just basically say, if you have successfully completed the safe system assessment course, which you're currently doing, then you send the certificate of successful completion through to the email address, and when they update it, you'll go onto the list. So they're the only 2 jurisdictions that have a register of safe system assessors. Everyone else just basically says, we don't have a specific register. You just need to show you're competent in this. And usually a certificate of successful completion from the course is a pretty great way to do that. So I talked about the Victorian requirements, $2 million. So they talk about a rapid safe system assessment could be done if it's determined you need to do something. 2 to 5 million, usually a full safe system assessment, but maybe a rapid if it's a very low risk project. Above 5 million, just full safe system assessment. So what is this full and rapid? Well, probably the easiest way is I'll talk you through a full safe system assessment, the scope of that, and I'll just point out the ones that sort of drop off for a rapid safe system assessment if you wanted to go down that approach. So commencement meeting, yeah, that may not happen. It may just be an email in a rapid safe system assessment, but certainly for a full one, you'd usually have a catch up with the project team, really unpack what is the context, understand that, and the like. So you've got to kind of do that anyway, a little bit in a rapid to get your head around it. And that's the workshop, which there's an initial like commencement meeting, but a workshop is really where you do get wider people involved. You can sometimes have the police there. You can have, different areas, the environmental people, the design people, the traffic people, all these different parties can come in. The site inspection, so technically under a rapid, you don't need to do a site inspection, and so it can be done at a desktop level. A lot of rapid safe system assessments, the site inspection is still undertaken as just as part of it, but it's an option for some of those that it may not be needed. On both of them, you assess the existing additions, the design options, you do the matrix. You don't consider the other pillars, those other qualitative questions as part of a rapid. The reporting's a little bit less for a rapid than a full, but it's pretty much the same, apart from a few of those other things. And then, yeah, the client considers what they accept, they don't. Ideally goes back and gets another score if they want and amends the project design. So, I always say a rapid usually in my mind is about 70% of the work of a full. So not 10% of the work. It's you still got to do a lot in a rapid anyway, but it might just be a little bit less. Okay, any questions at this stage before I give a little final run through some safe system road environments? Okay, so you're about to there was a question, sorry, just came in just as I was about to start on this, so I'll answer that now. Thanks, Natalie. Who should be at the workshop? Okay, so the workshop is around gathering information about the project, its context, understanding what scope there is for change, so your recommendations become a little more honed in. So it is a little bit case by case on the project, but for a big project, for example, I would usually have the designer or somebody from the design team there, the project manager type person, somebody from the traffic team, somebody representing active transport, ideally. Then I like to have police, if possible, there. So a representative from Highway Patrol. They're the main ones. Now, if it was a super big project, you might bring in some others. I mentioned environmental. That kind of sometimes depends. If it's a project, high-speed road, trees, and trying to work out what options are available and the like, they can often be really valuable. So council, yes. So sometimes it is a council project and you're doing all of that. If it's a state project, yes, the council representatives or vice versa can be very beneficial. Community groups, I haven't involved them in safe system assessments as such. It gets to a little bit of a slightly different reason for the workshop almost. Now, yes, they're going to provide good insights about what their feel of the area is and what they would like to see happen. I kind of want the responsible road authority, be it council or the state or whoever it is, to have those conversations and feed that information through. It's not quite what the safe system assessment's role is. It could be part of it. It would just be, it'd be interesting. They'd get into some weird detail that the community is probably not too interested in. PTV, yes, certainly. If it's a so that's Public Transport Victoria, for those who are wondering what that is. So yeah, certainly if it's got public transport corridors, routes, bus stops, these sorts of things, absolutely valuable input. Strategic planners, maybe. It depends how early a stage it is, but yeah, they could be possible. So how big and wide do you go? Does it depend a little bit? But yeah, I haven't seen the safe system assessment process be used so much as a community consultation exercise. I've seen, don't get me wrong, when they're doing community consultation, the safe system assessment has been presented as these are the options. This is how well it'll, aligns with safe system principles. And then I've had to explain a bit about what is the safe system, how have we done this process, and those sort of things. Sure. But getting their input to try and help you with the actual assessment and recommendations hasn't been part of it that I've experienced, but maybe, it could be. Excellent. Great questions again. So the assignment you've got has given you a specific location. I think they're mostly intersections, and asked you to do a safe system assessment of it. And you're going through that and you'll do a good job of it, no doubt. Thing is, we give you a certificate and it doesn't say, you are you've completed the safe system assessment course for local road intersections or for arterial road intersections or something like that. It's just, you can do a safe system assessment on anything, a motorway, a new railway station, a local residential street upgrade. Like, you've got the process down pat. So I just wanted to quickly run through these different road environments, talk briefly about, what would be ideal safe system environments, or where could we push to, just so you've got that in your head. And then Loretta will quickly take you through the finalization of the course. And then I'll, as I mentioned, hang around and see if anybody wants to talk to me about specifics they have with their safe system assessments. So residential environments, oh, well, I might give out a few prizes just on this one and then I'll whip through. So, a lot of these roads around Australia are 50km/h default speed limit. And this one, for example, opens up onto an arterial road down the end there. To give, what is our sort of highest alignment with safe system principle? What sort of things would we be altering in this road environment to get really great alignment with safe system principles? So if you were doing a safe system assessment on this and, maybe they were just, what would you recommend altering here? Okay, so we've got parking has come out. Is it removing parking, adding parking, adjusting the location of parking? Not sure on that. Width of the road, realign, okay, putting on the parking on one side, designated crossing points, pedestrian facilities, okay. Raised platform at the intersection, okay. Raised platforms, wombats. All right, Loretta, I want prizes for those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Oh, 9.
You're going to clean out my supply.
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
All good.
No matter how many I give away, the prize pit stays just as it's always been. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, speed. So the first thing I'd say here is, let's go back to, can we influence exposure here? So literally, does this need to be open to an arterial road? Is it a you being used as a rat run. These residential areas, there's some, I don't know why in Australia we're just so insistent on this open, free access points at so many locations, which causes a lot of that rat run issue, a lot of increased conflict points for no apparent reason. So, can we close this off? Can we turn this into a court ball or something like that? Stop a lot of that exposure. Getting the speeds down, absolutely. Now, people talked about parking there. Well, removing parking will open up sight lines to pedestrians crossing. However, it also gives this wider bit of road, which increases speed of vehicles. So you've got to be careful with that. So if you're going to remove parking, narrow your road, use that road space for separated bike facilities, or ensure you've got local area traffic management, traffic calming features, ensuring speed comes down. So raised features, things like lighting is good. I mean, dedicated crossing points, fine. In these sorts of road environments, I really feel if we've got low speed and low speed and good traffic calming and the like, designated crossing points are less important, but they can work quite well in some environments. These sorts of environments, which are clearly places for people under our movement in place framework. I'll give a prize if you can tell me where this one is. This is where we certainly don't want to make it feel like a road. So some people want to fence this off and have one wombat crossing somewhere for all these pedestrians. The whole area should be calmed and pedestrian prioritized, and at some point they've removed the fencing or the wires and things that were there because so many people just walking trapped on the road and the like. So this is where we go to shared zones, closing it off from vehicles, super low speed for any vehicles through these areas. Oh, good guess on Launceston. No, it's actually written up there, isn't it? It's Bondi Junction. Where that guy was stabbing people. Is it stabbing? Yeah, that was scary. Okay. These mixed-use arterials super hard, and I like because this is where at a movement in place framework, it's movement, it's place, it's pedestrian priority, and it's the major bus route, and it's the major traffic priority route. It's everything going on there. The reality on that is that we need to start to calm it down, and vehicles can go through there at a reasonable speed, as in passenger vehicles, and by reasonable I mean continuous sort of run at 30 or so or 40 is fine. The ability here to run at 80 is absolutely there. There's nothing stopping it. It's straight, it's flat, it's just go. Like, we have so much reliance on people not just going a little bit fast. And I say 80, even like 60 through there. So speed calming, again, you could be raising those signalized crossing points. Now people might say, oh, the buses and the like. Well, you can, do some separated facility there and not have the bus bit raised and have the other bits raised. And, there's a bit of design thinking about it. I like dwell on reds for those who know of Restaurant Red, which is pretty much that, like Friday night, Saturday night, into the wee hours of the morning, these lights they sit on red, and it takes a vehicle to come right up to it and trigger it, and then it'll go green, let them through, and then back to red. It makes it so it's not something that you use. You go, oh, I'm not taking, I think it's just Oxford Street. I'm not taking Oxford Street because it's so slow. I get every red light through there. And why? Because it's people out partying, intoxicated, using this area. They're a vulnerable road user, and we should not be trying to pump traffic through there as fast as we can. Variable speed limits could be another one. I'm reluctant to put pedestrian fencing up in these areas due to its eroding of place value, and I'd rather just sort of bring speeds down. But that is a strategic transport decision-making thing to happen. If somebody said to me, no, this is a traffic priority route, objective is to move cars through there fast, and then I'm going, okay, well, I don't like it, but it's not my role to make your strategic transport planning decisions. The way you get a higher alignment with safe system principles, is to fence off pedestrians, give them a particular crossing point, slow vehicles at that crossing point. Okay, so this one is high speed, rural, low volume roads, super hard, because you're not going to spend the money for continuous barrier systems. It's just not well, if you had the money, okay, and then you could keep speeds high. In the interim between us actually getting speeds down on these types of roads, which the community isn't quite ready for at the moment, we look at a lot of likelihood factors, a lot of supporting treatments, sealed shoulders, audio tactile edge line, audio tactile center line, wide center line treatments, enhanced delineation with guideposts, warning of things, small bits of barrier system, where, because you're trying to minimize cost often in these environments. But where we get to higher volume roads, that's where our continuous barrier system down the middle of the road, the sides of the road comes really into play, and looking at intersection treatments such as roundabouts, which actually complement nicely a central barrier system. You've got a roundabout, you've got a central barrier system there, and a vehicle sort of come in. And because if they wanted to turn right, they can't turn right anymore, so they can go down here and they can go back that way. So strategically it can work quite nicely. So roundabouts, blocking off in some intersections, getting people to go to that one roundabout intersection, or creating side road activated speeds and these sorts of treatments. High volume, outer suburban arterial roads, your real traffic routes, higher speed, we can't be mixing vulnerable road users and high speed traffic like this just with a white line. We've got to be getting these separated, dedicated cycle facilities, shared paths, cycleways, separated from the road, and we've got to really target slowing vehicles through these major conflict points and areas we know are going to be higher risk. And motorways, freeways, and the like, they operate fairly well in terms of alignment with safe system principles, in terms of there's continuous barrier systems, there's not intersections with bad angles, they're all sort of on-ramps and the like. Where we see things go badly is as we see vehicle flow breakdown. So as in, when it's free-flowing, operates really quite well, quite safely. When it's absolutely congested, it actually operates really safely as well, because all the little bingles, they don't have enough energy and speed to do any damage. It's as we start to see it get saturated, and then we see higher speed and end of queue issues and the like. So lane use management systems, managed motorway stuff. So being able to predict what's going to happen on the freeway based on algorithms and the like, and managing speeds, lowering speeds before things go bad, having ramp metering, so you're slowly injecting vehicles into the system, monitoring. Unfortunately, we see overrepresentation of pedestrians on these roads, and it's not people just trying to cross. Occasionally it is, but most of the time it's people getting out of their vehicle, getting out of a taxi at 2 a.m, either being kicked out of the taxi or some argument or throwing up or go to the toilet, all sorts of stuff. You monitor and really get into the details of some of these incidents on freeways. There's a lot of stuff goes on at those hours. So kind of our responsibility as system managers is to identify these sorts of things and and manage the risk at that point in time by reducing the speed of all the vehicles, closing lanes off and the like. So it does take a bit of that wider thinking. Yeah, so there's no breakdown lane over on this one. That's right. So depending on your jurisdiction, and that event, it happens all the time, is you've got a breakdown lane and then the motorway is congested and the government says, we can't afford to do widening, but we want more lanes. And they go, we use the breakdown lane as a running lane. And so that becomes even more important to do lane use management systems and really good stuff. Actually, that's a really interesting time to do a safe system assessment. We've done that. And you do get a little bit more into the ITS, the managed motorway space. And sometimes you want to pull in a managed motorway expert. You're thinking about actually some of those qualitative questions actually come out and become really relevant. Like, do emergency and medical services operate as efficiently and rapidly as possible? Can they get to incidents? And sometimes it's really hard in a congested motorway. There's been a crash, there's an incident, they can't get to it. There's nowhere to run up, and so you think quite broadly and widely about this sort of stuff. Really interesting. And this is a bit more detailed, but sometimes you do it. Like if you start to eat into a shoulder, for example, so you've got a shoulder, say here, or an emergency lane, and all of a sudden that becomes a running lane, you sometimes lose your forward sight distance. So you've got to readjust and redo all your sight distance checks, and potentially change speeds accordingly. Lots of interesting stuff. So in our major rural highways, the Hume, the Pacific Highway, these big major roads, the Bruce Highway and things like that, they really, if we have to continue to run these at high speeds, which makes sense because it's a long way to travel, major freight routes, major travel corridors, continuous barrier systems. And I mean, the Hume's a good example because it's now just continuous barrier systems from Melbourne to New South Wales border. It's virtually eliminated runoff road death and serious injury. And intersections there, grade separations, and there is a possibility to run a at grade high speed intersection with good alignment with safe system principles. It takes a bit of space though. Just quickly show you it, and this will be the last thing before I let Loretta jump in. In a road like this, you might have big median there. Right, it's currently like that. That does not align well with safe system principles, considering it's 110 kilometers per hour and a vehicle comes out here at 110 and is struck there. That's going to end in death or high level serious injury. So in order to, you grade separate it, fly over, whatever it is, but the way you can sort of do this with high alignment with safe system principles, not doing that, is to, I'll go back to my red, close that, provide a full length acceleration lane, or a good bit of acceleration there, and then space for them to get over a U-turn and an acceleration lane back there. The reason for that is you just got to get your delta V's within check, your change in velocity within check, within safe system tolerable limits, and we've met sort of safe system or higher safe system alignment. I hope that makes a bit of sense. Okay. I think that's probably a good point to stop, to let Loretta take you through the learning management system, how to end the course. I'll come back after the end of that, Loretta, and just say a final thank you, and then I'll hang around and see if anybody wants to talk to me one-on-one, or maybe not one-on-one, but with whoever else is hanging around. Good. I can see the learning management system.
Thank you. Excellent. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, pretty simple, I guess, for everyone for the module 5. It is just a quiz. So under the module 5 tab, you can see the quiz here. And as you've done for previous quizzes, clicking in there and attempting that quiz and answering the questions. Now, if I go back a step to explain, you do need to complete the last section as well, which is feedback and get your certificate. So if we click in here, you'll see that the tasks involved here is complete the feedback. So in order to receive your certificate, you must fill out a very quick survey. It's only a few quick questions. But, it's really good for us to get your feedback, as the participant, to see if there's anything we can improve. We always try and make things, better for our attendees. So please click on course feedback, and it's simply set up like a quiz or a survey. So just clicking on answering questions and complete those questions. One other thing I guess we'd like you to sort of look at if you wanted to share your achievement online. So in this folder here, if you click on share your achievement online, we've made it sort of simple for you, where you can click on this link, and that will take you to a site where you can basically copy and paste what we've sort of provided for you. So if you go to Safe System Assessment from this link, and then you can share directly to any of those social platforms if you wanted to. So I guess, we sort of encourage you to share what you have done, because we know how important this course is, and anything safe system is important. So it's really good to share within your networks what you have completed. But yeah, we've created sort of a little bit of a template here if you wanted to sort of copy and paste and then share through your socials directly through here, or download the badges if you wanted to as well. So that's, the couple of things that you can do there. But in order to get your certificate, you must have completed all of your quizzes, your 2 assignments, and of course, that feedback, and then you'll have access to your certificate. So you'll get that electronic copy to download, and you can print it if you wanted to, put it up on your wall. But yeah, so that's all for this sort of section in the LMS. In regards to your module 4 assignment, ensure that, try and do it by this date, but I think I mentioned earlier, if you do have anything that's going on, that's totally fine. We can extend that date for you. So that's pretty much the end of the course aspect in the LMS. Ken?
Thanks, Loretta. Yeah, and encourage you to share that with your networks to let them know you can do safe system assessments for them. It's a great way to do that. We'll share it. We'll tag us in. We'll share it with people, and good way to promote the safe system and your ability to undertake this process. Now, as Loretta said, you've got to finish those assignments and that and the quiz, and hopefully you've started on the safe system assessment, but I will be hanging around. It looks like one person wants to have a bit of a chat, so we'll do that. And if anybody else wants to hang around and listen in, they can do that. Or we can organise other one-on-ones with the markers. You will get feedback. Even if you pass, I want you to read that feedback for when you do future safe system assessments, because sometimes, you get through with a pass, but there's some things that you need to do better on. So really read that feedback. If you don't pass, and you'll get that feedback and it'll be clear and detailed, have another go at it and update it, or request that one-on-one catch up with the assessor, the marker, who can talk you through these different aspects. So just before we give people the choice to leave and get into that work, I just want to thank Loretta and team for all the work organising behind the scenes. Lots of work goes into it, and because of my prize giving nature and Max's prize giving nature. There's more work to come, Loretta. Lots of posting out of prizes, but thank you for all your work, and we love the trivia, and you do a great job.
Thank you,
everyone, for taking time out of their super busy schedules to do this course. I think it's super important that we try to learn new processes, new practices to improve our community's lives, to protect our community. I always say you never know who you will save, but you can be confident that by putting in place some of these safety features, we will save people's lives. We'll prevent horrific things from happening to them and their community and their family and the like. And yeah, we shouldn't lose sight of that. It's easy to just trudge on in the manner that they've been doing it for the last 40 years, but we're just not accepting that level of death and serious injury, and we got to change things. And this is a good process for doing that. It's one tool. We need lots of things to happen. We need lots of change. We need lots of road safety champions out there. You've got some, soon you'll have some extra qualifications as such to be able to say, I'm a safe system assessor, and call out some of that practice. Keep pushing. Sometimes you don't achieve what you want to, but if we keep pushing for better outcomes for our community, we will see things change over time. So thank you so much. And if at this point you want to log off, do that quiz, and get into your assignment, please do. If you'd like to hang around and have a chat about anything in particular, please hang around. The best way to do that will probably be to put your hand up. So find the raise hand button in there, and we can unmute you and then have a bit of a chat, or type it in the chat as you like. But thank you, everyone. Catch you at a future course, hopefully, or at a conference or something, and make sure you keep in contact.
thanks everyone.
Okay, a few people dropping off. And Natalie's got a hand up, so okay, Natalie, hopefully you can unmute. Yes, hello.
Yeah, hi, how you going?
Good. I hear you loud and clear, so that's a good start.
Oh, that's good. I don't know if it's really the question, but it's just like vegetation in medians on rural highways where it's a divided carriageway.
Yeah.
And I know there's also driver distraction with, the oncoming vehicles on the other side. So it's just whether that's something that, like you agree with or not. You
mean headlight glare and stuff?
Yeah, headlight glare.
Yeah. So so there is a new Austroads process, the Network Roadside Risk Intervention Threshold. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
No, I'm not.
Okay. It's a risk assessment of roadside or median hazards. It's kind of like the old clear zone, but it's a bit more refined. It gives a bit more of a precise score. So you're balancing off two things there. Like, what is the chance that somebody leaves the road and hits the vegetation? How severe is the vegetation? So if it's bushes or these sorts of things that their vehicle will go through, or is it trees that are big enough to stop them? That's a different risk scenario. So you're trading off like that risk versus, as you say, some headlight glare and these sort of things. The ultimate is a barrier system, and if you need to put I forget their exact name. There are paddles that block headlight glare. That's the ultimate. Obviously, there's often costs associated.
Yeah, costs involved with that. But yeah, bushes would probably be the other thing that we have with removing bushes is the then you've got bushfire hazards as well and things like that. So, but yeah, bushes is probably what we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
So
I think generally, you've got a safe-ish road environment if they're frangible. So, small trunk bushes. the ability to get to the other, they don't stop vehicles getting to the other side of the road though. So your distance across there is something also to consider.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't have direct answers. Had a few things to add into the mix of your thinking.
No, but that's good. I didn't know about the network roadside assessment by Austrade, so that's good to know about. So no, that's good. Thank you.
So that's in the new Austrade's Guide to Road Design, part
Okay.
6. Part 6.
Okay.
You can have a look at that. Great.
Excellent. Thank you.
No worries.
Hey, Ken, what is an apron in terms of a treatment?
Okay, an apron is just a bit of concrete that is slightly elevated from the road surface, but is able to be transversed by a vehicle. So a common place you'd see an apron is you have a small roundabout and then a bigger area of concrete around it. That's called the apron. And you can drive, a larger vehicle can track over that apron. You could do it at a roundabout or possibly some turn movements, you put an apron. It makes it so the width of the intersection or the circulating carriageway or the like, it still looks small, but a larger vehicle swept path can get through there.
Excellent, thank you. I think we had Dharmashil next. I'll allow Dharmashil to
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Hi, and hi, Loretta. Yeah, I would like to just extend a question what Natalie asked before about about the in the median strip, you got all the vegetation.
Yeah.
So similar to that, actually, when you enter any town, most of the towns have got their peculiar things about, maybe some towns have got their cattle shown on the ground in the median strip, or they got some stubiles, or they got some structures that just creates kind of a obstruction when people are crossing the road, and that's actually just kind of creating the unsafe environment for people to cross the road. So in those cases, what would be your suggestion? Because when you try to talk to council regarding those things, definitely they got some values regarding those, so they would not remove those ones, though it's becoming an obstruction. So how you deal with those kind of situations?
When you say obstruction, do you mean like blocking sight distance?
Yeah, blocking side. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I would extend. I mean, the blocking side of oncoming traffic, because when you got a traffic going both ways, those median strip actually just create like a hazard in terms of the vehicles coming from the different direction, and especially when we got some pedestrian crossing those areas in the middle, that just basically unsafe environment.
Yeah. So certainly, I think your point to try to open up sight lines to pedestrians crossing is good. You remember, like, a critical element of sight distance calculations and everything associated with that is speed of vehicle. So if you can put traffic calming on the approach to the crossing point for vehicles, the sight distance requirements are far, far less, and you can really so I mean, I've created very safe pedestrian crossing points with almost no sight distance, but vehicles almost have to come to a stop due to the traffic calming put in place. So you're kind of balancing that. You say, well, if we're not willing to open up sight lines, we've really got to get vehicle speeds down, on the approach to this. So you could, traffic calming. I don't know, are they signalized crossing points, refuge islands, wombat crossings, or just like pram ramps, just a point to cross?
Yeah, I mean, like in typical towns, you see people crossing everywhere. They don't have the dedicated traffic, I mean, like crossing devices, like maybe crossing device or something like that.
Yeah.
So those are tricky
if they're
situations.
just crossing everywhere, I mean, it sounds like your obligation there is to try and get vehicle speeds down. If that's the concern.
Yes.
And open up sight lines as much as you reasonably can there. Yeah, no, that's good. Which town, out of interest, are you talking about?
I mean, there are a few towns actually. For instance, if you see one of the towns in Queensland called as Kulpi, that Kulpi town, though it's a small town, but it's a huge population of the caravans, because people, they too do try to use that area when it comes to the holidays.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the verge of the median strip, they got all the cows and sheep and all these different features they have introduced, and that just creates an obstruction for the road users. And there are so many people crossing the road, and that becomes quite difficult. And especially when you got all the races and all those areas, I mean, like on those like events, there are hundreds and thousands of caravans crossing those roads, and hundreds and thousands of people just crossing the roads as well. So that becomes a different environment, or maybe unsuitable environment.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, it's hard. It's a case by case usually. And, thinking about seasonal measures and these sort of things are a possibility, but yeah, good. No, thanks for asking.
If you happen to see that side, like Kulpi town, which is maybe west of, like I would say southwest Queensland.
Yeah.
It's Quilpie, and it's in the middle of the road. You will see that all these cows and the big, animals actually even everywhere. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
I'll have a look.
Yeah,
Thank
please.
you.
But anyway,
Okay.
thanks for that.
Penelope, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Now, we've got a road that goes through our parklands. Was 60 k's, got it down to 50 now. Big stink from a few people in the public, but that's life.
Yeah.
But we've got numerous crossing points, currently just refuges.
Yeah.
And something that I always hear people say, like, because it's quite a windy road, existing vegetation in the parklands, significant trees, don't want to remove these big significant eucalypts. So what people say always is, we don't want to put in a wombat or any sort of priority crossing because we haven't got the crossing site distance and it will be less safe. So you just should use a refuge island. What do you think about that? Like, how do you kind of assess that when you can't achieve the crossing site distance? But your normal gut reaction is go like, right, let's put in a priority crossing or a wombat crossing, but it doesn't really seem to work.
Yeah. So the Australia is about to change. So we're in this weird little patch. I want you to forget about where we're currently at with Austroad's guidance because it's changing and it used to be right. So there's these three relevant site distances we've got here. We've got approach site distance. So that's, can the driver see that there is a priority crossing? We've got crossing site distance, which is, can the pedestrian see a vehicle and have enough time to make the distance across whatever they need to cross? And then you've got essentially safe intersection site distance, which is, can the driver see the pedestrian in time to react if they come out, right? So under those scenarios, like the one you're talking about, what often happens is we can't meet crossing site distance or stopping site distance, right? So basically, you can't meet either, but you can meet approach site distance. And so what I often argue is that it's actually safer that we alert a driver to a crossing point, utilizing that. They can see it as a crossing point and they will slow down as long as we've got it at a raised crossing point or the like, because they know it's there. But on the flip side, if we put all of that responsibility on the pedestrian, they don't have enough distance. They can't see far enough up the road to make an informed call as to whether it's safe or not for them to dart out across the road, or if it's an older person or the like, that they can't. They just won't do it. So it's kind of, I always flip that the other way, that we actually, under those scenarios, we have an obligation to actually make it a priority crossing. That is our obligation, because it's the only way you can get a somewhat safer scenario where somebody has achieved some sight distance, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing is, and I have seen some discussion on LinkedIn as well, I don't know whether there'll be more guidance kind of coming into Austroads of zebras or wombats where there is a refuge island, because I think that's, another interesting scenario and question. Lots of people going like, oh, well, does that mean you have to get the full sight distance, you know, to clear the whole crossing if you've got the island in the middle? And yeah, it's something that's, I think a lot of people are perplexed by at the moment. It'd be great if there was more guidance on that.
Yeah. So we're just finalizing this race crossing design course because, you know, that's one of like 100 issues that there is not good guidance or conflicting guidance out there on. So we're nutting out through those. But yeah, like with a refuge, essentially, yeah, I take it that ideally you get sight distance across the whole thing. But if you can't, you got a refuge, and it's sort of within what's acceptable to only get sight distance to half of that. That's okay. Like you kind of have to be practical with it and just understand, well, you know, what risks are we addressing and what are we not? I think it, in most scenarios, a race crossing is going to be safer. Like, very rare.
There's also those conversations around, oh, there's lots more vehicles than pedestrians, and sometimes there won't be any pedestrians, so they'll be really unexpected, and so it's unfair to expect a motorist to randomly see a pedestrian, you know, very rarely. So yeah, it's complex.
And that, like, yeah, there's a bit of merit to that, not as much as I think, like, going back to a warrants based is not the way we want to go. But if you strip back where warrants were coming from, that was kind of it. It was like, well, you know, at some point, like, people are just not going to expect a pedestrian and get very immune to looking and the like. Again, for me, the raising of it just almost negates that issue. Doesn't quite, but like that is very much it for just a zebra crossing. Like, yeah, okay, they're going high speed and they're completely tuned out. That's a worry. If you've got the raised nature and they're slowing down on the approach, it's just a better scenario all around, isn't it?
Yeah. No, that's great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good on you, Penelope. Thanks for coming along to the course.
Oh, hopefully my work pays for it soon. I just got they haven't paid yet. Sorry.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. I'll leave that for Loretta to come and break your knees later.
Yeah, you're with the heavy coming over. Thanks so much.
Yeah. All good. All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay.
Good luck.
Bye.
Okay. And I think that's probably about it, Loretta. When any other questions had popped up?
Yeah, we just had that last question from Sue, but I said we might send it via email if in the interest of time.
Yeah, great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.